a bit of an update on a story we did earlier about the McCain-Sanders bill. Now, that would address the needs of veterans that have been unable to receive care on a timely basis. Now, if you remember, the McCain-Sanders bill would have allowed veterans to seek care from private doctors if they've waited an unreasonable amount of time for care or live 40 miles away from a VA clinic. And this would be for the next 2 years while the VA would be worked on in order to make sure that they're better staffed, updated, and can actually handle the caseloads on their own again while giving our veterans the level of care that they deserve. Now, the issue here is that the bill has now stalled in Congress. It was bipartisan. Now, not so much. I mean, it's still bipartisan. It's still supported by senators on both sides, or congressmen on both sides, but there are a few sticking points. What's one of those sticking points? Well, what else? How much it costs. Now, this bill is estimated to cost $50 billion annually, according to CBO estimates. That's a lot of money. Now, in a letter to Bernie Sanders, who is the Senate Veterans Affairs Chairman, the CBO writes, CBO estimates under Title III, enrolled veterans would ultimately seek to increase the amount of care they receive from VA by about 60%. In addition, CBO expects that some of the people who are eligible to enroll but are not yet enrolled would choose to enroll because of the improvement in access to health care through the VA. Most of the costs incurred to provide that care would be for care financed by other payers, including Medicare. A portion of those costs would thus be offset by savings to a Medicare program. All told, CBO expects that veterans would ultimately seek additional care that would cost the federal government about $50 billion a year on net. Now, like I said, that is a pretty good chunk of money. And of course, that doesn't sit well with some Republicans. Now, Senator Sanders agrees that the cost is an issue, but it's an issue that's unavoidable if we're going to fix the VA. He says, quote, "We have to understand that getting veterans the quality care they need in a timely manner is going to be an expensive proposition. And if we're talking about making sure that we address the long-term problems at the VA, that means that above and beyond the emergency health care the veterans need right now to eliminate the long wait periods, we are also going to have to make sure that the VA is adequately staffed in terms of doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel. That is going to be an expensive proposition." Now, he continues, "But I believe absolutely that the American people are going to want us to address this issue. Understand that it's going to cost money, above and beyond the need to improve accountability and transparency and punishing those people who have done a poor job or have been dishonest, and that has to be done through emergency numbers." Now, passing it as an emergency, of course, would eliminate the need for them to make an offset. Now, something Senator Sanders is arguing against. Now, both John McCain and Bernie Sanders are hoping to get an agreement hammered out before Congress leaves for another break in August. Now, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Should cost even be a factor in this? Because, well, let's face it, we owe our troops. And do you think Congress can find a way to get this passed before the August deadline? Becca, let's start with you.
I wouldn't ever say that costs should not be an issue, especially having just revealed that I'm a huge advocate for spending more on education. That money has to come from somewhere. But should $50 billion for veterans be an issue when we have a $600 billion plus defense budget? No. Our VAs are in pretty bad condition. Having had an uncle that went through the VA system and didn't come back out, and two parents who volunteer for their local VA, it's a system that has a lot of outdated equipment, that is underfunded in a lot of ways, and a lot of the measures that this provides for, such as veterans who don't have a VA within 40 miles of them, that's a reality that has to be dealt with. And I just don't think that the price tag is as astronomical as it's being made out to be in comparison to other things that we're spending money on. So not that cost shouldn't be an issue, but that maybe this cost is not as much of an issue as they're making it out to be.
Right. Like, as far as this goes, I mean, we spent the money to send them off to war. We should spend the money to take care of them. I mean, that's part of the deal here. We send you off to war. We take care of you if you get hurt or injured or maimed or damaged or whatever, because that's what you get for serving our country. You get to be taken care of. That's the deal. But anyway, Sean.
Yeah, I I agree in theory, but when you compare the 50 billion to the VA's 2014 budget, which was 150 billion, it's kind of weird that one third of it is just going to these certain amount of people. It seems like that's high. And also, I don't get the 40 miles away from the VA. Like, I get it, you want to help people that are far away from the VA, but if you live 10 miles away from the VA and the wait list is a year and a half long, like, you should be able to go to a private care taker too. Like, I don't know how much sense this bill makes with that.
No. That is part of the bill. If you've been waiting an unreasonably long time, you should be able to.
Yeah,
You will also be able to go to a private,
Right.
private place to get treated. And that's
Right.
part of that cost is paying for those private doctors now. And,
Right. And I
what they said and what the CBO said in the bill is that more people are going to take advantage of it. That's why there are increased costs.
Right, and there should be, and honestly, we should probably move to a system where the VA covers the things that the VA does well, which is like head trauma and stuff like that. And most of it is that these guys get vouchers to go to private doctors. Like, I've actually been, how long have I been? Every time we do a VA story, this is exactly what I suggest. So, like, in general, I'm in favor of it. But if there are ways to do it without spending $50 billion, with, if you could find ways that, things that cost more, of course I'll be in favor of that. But obviously you got to give people the options to go to different places while the VA is like basically underwater, I guess. Like, it's in a ridiculous situation. Now, like, of course you should be able to offset it. I have an idea on how you can offset it. We could not send any more money to Iraq, no more special forces, none of that, and we could not send any more people to Afghanistan, and that should more than offset the $50 billion to go to the veterans' health care. So stop making more wounded people and use that money that you would have made making more wounded people to take care of the ones that you already have. It's
That's actually a
crazy.
suggestion from Sean that I actually agree with. We don't need to, like, it's especially troubling when we decide that we can't afford to take care of the soldiers that we have. We're sitting here bickering in Congress about over $50 billion when we're getting these projects like the F-35 that have cost billions, billions and billions of dollars, and it doesn't work, and we're spending all this money on defense contractors and war. Isn't that kind of a little bit of a fucked up disconnect? I
Right.
mean, we're spending more money on wars and on military equipment that we don't fucking need that ends up getting sent to our police departments, which further militarizes our police, by the way, or we sell them off to these other countries like Iraq, or we give them to Iraq, which later has them being taken over by ISIS, by the way. Fucking insanity.
It's a lot of money, and if there are ways to reduce the amount of money, like reduce the waste that will be within this $50 billion, I'm totally cool with that. But in general, you went to war, you have to take care of the people that come back and they're hurt, and the VA's messed up. You have to give people an option to leave the VA while you fix it. Like, it's
Right, and
pretty straightforward.
that's what Sanders is for. He's like, look, guys, we don't have time to sit here and worry about offsetting that $50 billion. We don't have time to figure out how we're going to whatever jury rig the budget in order to get this extra money out. We've got to take care of these guys now. People have died under the VA care, okay, from waiting for so fucking long. And Congress is going to sit there and, kick it around like a fucking soccer ball while there are people that need help and
Well,
are
I mean,
veterans.
I will, I
Bullshit.
will, I will say is I would prefer if they took the money out of some other portion of the budget, like offsetting it. Like,
They
if
could do that later if they wanted
yeah,
to,
yeah,
but they've
but
got to
they're
get it
like,
done now.
I understand that they could do that later, and they should do that later. They should get the veterans the care that they need. But, like, let's really keep it real. If they say they're going to do that later, just like the sequester, they're going to eventually undo it because the Congress never wants to cut anything. But, like, just don't make this your breaking issue, the veterans' healthcare. Like, don't lose your veterans' lives to make the point. Like, save it for the next one, like education spending, something way less important.
Well, the important thing too is that time's ticking out. I mean, they're going to be going on another break. I know. Imagine that, Congress going on another fucking vacation, as if they need any more. But they're about to go on another break come August, and I don't see them getting anything done. I mean, even though this is like hugely bipartisan, once again we're running into that do nothing Congress mentality. Like, I don't know, it's a lot of money. You're going to have to cut Social Security or something. You wait. There's going to be a senator out there or a congressman out there that says, we'll do your veterans care, but you've got to cut food stamps, or you've got to cut Social Security, you've got to cut something that's super important. And then that, Democrats are going to be like, well, I don't know about that. I don't really want to do that. And then Republicans will run ads against them in the midterms. Just watch. It's all political bullshit. And it sucks because, I mean, especially now, because you've got veterans' lives on the line, literally.
Yeah, and it should just be pointed out that a lot of administrations fail to fix the VA, but if you're going to go to war, it doesn't take somebody to be educated in a state that's not Kansas to know that you're going to have wounded people come back.
All right. Well, okay. Becca, do you have anything last to add?
No, I did. This was a while ago, but I just wanted to explain something that Sean brought up that I think people maybe don't know. As far as the difference between 10 miles and 40 miles, the VA actually has volunteer transport, and then they also have volunteer drivers. So that's one of the reasons that 10 to 40 miles actually could make a huge difference. So that's just one thing that might explain something about the law. The other thing is, I agree that the VA should be doing more with the budget that it has. It just seems to make sense to me that they should be farther along if that's the money that they have. But I don't think that decreasing a budget in any way necessarily causes greater oversight. And giving more money doesn't cause worse accountability. So yes, the accountability and oversight need to be improved. And I don't hear either of you arguing that it would, just that it doesn't really create an argument for not doing this money now and then figuring out how to make it work better as we go forward.
Right. And oversight is something that definitely needs to happen with the VA. You need to have a close eye on what they're doing, because what they've been doing in the past hasn't worked.